Hey everybody, welcome to Ron's Computer Videos. Chris Torrance posted recently about maybe getting some community involvement and some people posting videos about kind of where they started and where they are and kind of what got them back into the hobby. Anyway, just listen to Chris.
I thought it might be a fun thing to do a tell your own story. So basically, how did you get started in retro computing? What was the first computer that you had as a kid? And then what got you back into the hobby years later? So I'll go ahead and I'll start out this episode and give you my story. But what I'd like you to do is to send me your story. And you can send me your stories as either a written story to ct6502store@gmail.com, or you can send me a link to a video. And then next episode, if I get enough of them, I'll go ahead and include your stories. As a bonus, if you send me your story, I'll go ahead and send you a 30% off coupon code for any t-shirts or sweatshirts in my store. So let's go ahead and we'll get started.
Thanks, Javier. I just wanted to kind of give you guys just a rundown of kind of where I started kind of in computing, where I've kind of went professionally, and then kind of what got me back on the retro stuff. Let me go ahead and I'm going to check my notes here real fast. Okay, the kind of what got me started back in the old days is going to school in kind of the early 1980s. I used to live in South Carolina, and our school had one computer in our library, and you could kind of trade time for like good behavior and stuff, and you could go in there at lunch and you could work on projects and do things. And one of the things that I was able to do is we had a disc for logo, and if you're familiar with that, you get in there and you can draw fun things and stuff. So what I did is I took I think a week plus of like lunches, and went in there and I drew the logo for my grade school, and the librarian was like really impressed by that. And I remember them like rolling the Apple II with the big 25-inch TV, at the time was kind of a big deal, rolling that into the classroom. And I loaded up the logo program and it drew it on the screen, and everybody was kind of like, wow, that's really neat. Never should have did that, because after that it was really hard to book time in the computer lab, just because everybody else kind of wanted to do their own fun thing. As you can probably already tell, the production value on this video is not really high. I mean, there's a boom like right in the shot. So Javier is just going to have to own the high quality production values on this. I would go on the weekends with my family to the mall in Columbia, South Carolina. They had a Radio Shack there. They also had like another like mom and pop computer store, and you kind of go in there and just check it out and see what type of things they have. And we didn't have a computer at home. I had to book time in school to kind of use that equipment and have exposure to technologies. But at home, I didn't really have a computer. And I remember one weekend when I was a kid, my parents were like, hey, we're going to go to Myrtle Beach. And I was like, wow, that sounds like a lot of fun. And so we went ahead and we got in the car and we drove to Myrtle Beach, and they took me to a hotel. And so I'm sitting kind of like in the hotel for hours and hours and hours. And they finally come out and they're like, all right, we're ready to go. And it wasn't let's go to the beach, it was let's go home because we're tired. So drove all the way home, and I didn't really understand what was going on until we got home. But what they had done is they had gone to a timeshare meeting, and I guess the gift for going to the timeshare was a computer. And I didn't really have big expectations of like having a computer at home. It was just like a fun thing to have one at home. So here's what I got. The Commodore Plus 4. If you can imagine a less kid-friendly Commodore, I don't know that it exists. But this was a fun machine for programming because it's got the better version of of BASIC on it for the Commodores, because it's kind of more of the business-oriented machine. And the whole thing with the Plus4 is it's got like a word processor, database program, spreadsheets, and anyway, it's got a bunch of junk built in, none of which is games. And the machine is TED based, so it doesn't have like the SID chip or like any of the cool sounds. But what you could do when you were a kid that didn't have a bunch of stuff in the 1980s is you could go to Radio Shack and you could go to these mom and pop computer stores and just, you know, say, hey, do you have any old Rainbow magazines that you're going to throw out that are months old, people aren't going to buy them, whatever. And I would always get them to give me like the dog-eared copies of Rainbow magazine. I'd take them home and you could type the programs in. Now granted, just had the 4 Plus, did not have floppy drive, did not have a tape drive. You programmed it and you left the machine on for days so you could keep playing that program. So, but it was humble beginnings, but it was a lot of fun. And stuff really wasn't, it didn't really like come on to me where it was just like that I was somehow behind the curve. I was just having fun. And honestly, that's what this hobby's about. Where I took that is years later, my aunt and uncle had an Apple II GS, and they were like, we're gonna unload it. We don't use it anymore. This would have been like in the very, very late 1980s. And they sold it to my parents. It was a really nice setup. It was the II GS, keyboard mouse, dual 5 1/4, a 3 1/2, and just like this, like 1 1/4 megs of RAM. So basically like the maxed out configuration for if you're gonna do stuff from floppy disk. And I convinced my dad to buy a SCSI card. So we got a SCSI card. And then I convinced my dad to buy like a 35 meg hard drive. And the hard drive came from a company that just basically loaded it up with shareware stuff. And I got a lot of experience with kind of messing that machine up and redoing it from like, you go to the local, because we had a local Apple store in my hometown. And you could go in there with floppies and they make you a copy. Oh, okay, this is the last time we're making you a copy of System 6 on floppies, kid. But they would let you, they'd be nice enough to do that for you. And then you could turn around and redo the machine. But I got a lot of experience with doing that. And then years later, moved on to Macintosh. And in high school and stuff, we had a lot of Macs and things like that. And we had a huge Apple II lab, you know, even in high school. But the Macintoshes were really neat. And I just fell in love with the like the Mac Classic. Saved up a bunch of money, and I mean, like worked and like traded and did like little IT site jobs and stuff. And we went to CompUSA to date this, and I was gonna buy a Quadra 605. And my dad, who had for years been kind of like computer stuff's okay type of letter to get done, didn't really understand the like fandom hobbyist kind of aspect of it. He was like, I'll tell you what, you've got all this money saved up. If you want, there's this other model, it's a Quadra 610, and you know, it's got more RAM and it's got a bigger hard drive, it's got a CD-ROM drive and things like that, and I'll spring for the difference. And I was kind of like, oh, it was really like kind of a cool moment. And that really is what kind of got me moving forward kind of in my IT career, and just, you know, getting into PCs and you know, retro gaming and all that. So, and it's just been fun, and it turned into a career, and here I am with 30 plus years in the IT biz, and I'm still doing it today. So what got me back into retro gaming is there is a YouTube channel that's called Phil's Computer Lab, and it's a guy, and he basically just goes through and rebuilds like these old retro machines, and like, but PC kind of stuff. And I played around with that for a while and had a lot of fun, but then I realized that it's like, man, this is like really an expensive hobby, because these PCs, like, people are like constantly like chasing that next little thing where it's like, oh well, yeah, sure, you've got a, you know, an MT32 and a in PU 401, but do you have a Voodoo 1 card, or do you have like some other like little bit of kit that everybody is constantly chasing the same eBay auctions? And it kind of made me think about, well, I loved all this Apple II stuff, and I loved playing on my parents' 2GS, and I loved playing on the Apple II stuff in school. And these machines are kind of like you buy the machine and all the software, very much like in the 8-bit retro or that 8-bit micro era, where it's like the machine is kind of written to the lowest hardware. So if you can get that base machine, you're able to do all the fun stuff, and there's not a lot of different levels that are kind of blocking you out from the content. So was looking around on YouTube, watched the Kansas Fest videos, started watching videos by like Joe's Computer Museum and Chris Torrance, and I was researching RetroBrite one day and saw Javier's videos, and there's so many cool people in the community that it just kind of made me want to get back into it and be part of it and start making videos again and just having some fun. But between this and like retro gaming and things like that, like I've got a sorry, I'll figure out the back and forth of this eventually. Like with a PVM and stuff like that, you can do all kinds of fun things. So, but anyway, thanks very much. I hope more people make these videos, because I'd really like to hear your stories. So anyway, good night.